This YCN segment is brought to you by Echo Communications, a digitally integrated commercial printer.
Welcome in, YCN Sports Talk. Jeremy Stout, Andrew Zerhai back in studio this week, and got a lot to talk about. Obviously, the Red Sox continuing their run, just in second place in the American League East. NBA playoffs are over, the finals are over. That didn't really end with any surprise as the Warriors completing the sweep. The offseason begins. We'll have our Salt Hill Pub picks of the week. We'll go for the top 5 spots we think LeBron James will land, so that'll be at the end of the show. But Andrew, thanks for joining me, and we're back talking Red Sox as the only sport in season right now. Playing well. There's still only a few games behind the Yankees, but basically tied in for that spot. But the Yankees just have a few more games left to be played. Struggling to score runs, but the pitching has shown up in the last week or so. Yeah, it has. Obviously, Chris Sale is starting to come back to form. He was struggling a little bit, but he's back. But it really stings when he goes 8 innings, allows 1 earned run, strikes out 10, and your team loses 1-0. That's very disappointing. To the Chicago White Sox. To the Chicago White Sox, one of the worst teams in the league, right? Yeah. That is disappointing. So the Red Sox, their offense has been struggling. I think a lot of that's been Mookie Betts. He's been injured for a couple of weeks, but he's recently come back. Yeah, so he's come back. JD Martinez sat out a couple games. Obviously, we were talking about this before we got on the air with the Hanley Ramirez whole DFA a couple weeks ago. Now that was Memorial Day weekend, so it seems like a while ago. And then Mitch Moreland was playing really well, and he was making Alex Cora look like the genius, and now he's kind of come back to earth. A little bit of a concern there, or is that just it's a long baseball season, those things happen? I mean, I think it is a long baseball season. He'll come back around, but it is a little concerning when it really came down to who do you keep, Hanley Ramirez, Blake Swihart, or Mitch Moreland. You kind of figured Hanley was probably going to stick around. I know he was owed a lot of money. Maybe they were going to get rid of him later on in the season because he's kind of a weird contract clause for next year. But I mean, Hanley's gone now, and we've seen the offense kind of struggle, and Blake Swihart's hitting like $150. I mean, he has not looked good. I know he hasn't had consistent playing time. They've kind of had to move him around. Hasn't been the best situation for him, but he has looked not too great, and like you said, Mitch Moreland has come back down to earth. Kind of missing Hanley a little bit right now. No, I think that's fair to say. I mean, you got Moreland, he'll play first base, he'll play great defense, but the offense, although it had been hot for the first 2 months of the season, it's kind of slowed down. Then you've got Blake Swihart, you've got Brock Holt, and you've got Eduardo Nunez. Kind of those 3 platoon players for 2 spots. They'll play the outfield a little bit, they'll DH a little bit. When somebody needs a rest, they'll mostly play second base, obviously, as Pedroia. Still yet to come back. The prognosis, we're still trying to figure out what that is. People have said he's injured, his surgery is acting up. I've heard also reports that it's not his surgery, it's something else. But either way you slice it, it doesn't look like he's going to be back. I wouldn't bet before July 1st. Yeah, I mean, even when he comes back, what kind of Pedroia are you going to get? I mean, is it worth sitting Nunez or Brock Holt? And they've both been playing pretty well. Holt's been playing very well. I think he has an above 300 average right now. So he's been a very solid piece in there. And, I mean, like I said with Pedroia, do you really want an older guy coming back from an injury, kind of playing as hard as he does, might get injured again, playing at that kind of level, right, with that intensity? I mean, right now, I think your best option is probably Nunez or Holt at second base. And that was the big thing. When Pedroia was ready to come back from the DL, that was why they got rid of Hanley, or that was the reason why they did it at that time. I mean, you're right. He had the big contract where if he reached the number of at-bats, his contract would kick in for next year. But it was one of those things where they didn't want to get rid of Swihart. They didn't want to get rid of Holt. So now Pedroia's back, and Sam Travis is gone. Pedroia's back on the DL, so he's going to have to come back again in July. They're going to have to do this whole thing. Obviously, maybe it's a pitcher they send down to the minors. But either way, this team is really a good team. I mean, we don't want to talk all doom and gloom here in this segment because they are right there, only percentage points behind the Yankees, like I said, because the Yankees have a few games to play. But in the second half or the next 4 months, 3.5 months, what's their biggest concern that they need to address? So right now, I think most teams, this is the case. I think bullpen help, right? You could use another kind of shutdown reliever, a guy for the 8th inning. Joe Kelly has filled that role nicely. He's done a good job. And same with Matt Barnes. He's really come around. But really, you need another reliever to get you to Kimbrel. I think that's probably their biggest hole. I mean, right now,
I've heard some rumors, of course, Manny Machado, right? There's talk about him. Where's he going to go? Would the Red Sox be willing to kind of put Devers maybe over at first base and put Manny at third? Offensively, I think they're okay. I think their bats have been playing pretty well. Probably just that bullpen could use a little help.
Right. I mean, it's like you said, it's a long season. You're going to go through these slumps where you're not hitting for a couple days. Unfortunately, it was against teams like the White Sox and right now the Orioles. But you're going to go through these slumps. They go to the West Coast to play Seattle. They go to Minnesota, then back home next weekend. So they'll come out of it. And you're right, a bullpen arm is probably the biggest thing, because the other thing, it won't cost them too much. They don't have a lot to give up, so a bullpen arm they can get on the cheap.
Weak farm system right now.
Exactly. So lots of baseball to play. Trade deadline approaching in a couple of months. We'll talk about that later on in the summer. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap up the NBA Finals with the Golden State Warriors winning in a sweep, 4 games to none. Talk about LeBron James. What does he do this offseason? You're watching YCN Sports Talk.